Okay, here we go. So let's start. So the first thing we are going to talk about, guys, and again, I'm very visual, so for me this makes more sense. I don't know how you guys want to learn. You can write notes wherever you want. But let's talk about signaling pathways, okay? So first thing we're going to talk about is there are 3 steps in cell communication. The first step is going to be reception. Now, reception either happens on 2 spots. It either happens on your cell membrane, and if you want to color code everything, I have crayons and stuff. Like you can color things different colors if you would like. Or it happens in the cytoplasm of the cell. So reception can either happen on your cell membrane or on the cytoplasm of your cell. And what determines where it binds is whether or not the ligand can move directly through the membrane, right? Because we keep saying the membrane is selectively permeable. That extends to the moving in and out of signal molecules, okay? Typically, if it's a membrane receptor, it's usually polar or large. It can't go directly through the membrane, so it has to bind on the membrane itself. In the cytoplasm, these are going to be signal molecules that are typically nonpolar and small.
I'm confused. Like, in general, what are we looking at right now?
Nothing yet. We're just, give me a second. You guys trust the process. I'm just giving you the introductory notes so then the picture will make sense after. You are looking at cell signaling. That is exactly what you are looking at.
I'm looking at what?
Cell signaling.
Oh,
okay.
I think you said something.
But just, I haven't explained it yet because it's not going to make sense when I talk about reception if you don't know what reception is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, give me a second and then hopefully, and then we'll act it out. Okay? So, now, again, reception usually involves a protein receptor and a signal molecule. And I told you guys, in order for this to work, these 2 must be compatible with each other, okay? Remember, the shape of the receptor protein must match the shape of the signal molecule. It's like a lock and key, right? Okay. And the receptor site have to match. It's like a substrate and an active site on an enzyme. Very good. It's got to fit. Okay? So let's talk about that right now. So what we are looking at is this is your cell membrane. Okay? This is the outside. Now remember, guys, the outside they always refer to as your extracellular. Okay? This would be your cytoplasm, or inside your cell. A little bit better. Remember, this would be like your phospholipid. Yeah, this looks like this. I mean, if you want to get super techie. That's what you're looking at, okay? Better? Okay. This is a receptor protein. And this little guy up here is your ligand. Remember, ligand is a fancy way to say a signal molecule. The little circle, that's your ligand. That could be a hormone. It could be a chemical. It could be it could be anything that can bind to the receptor. Okay? Now, you see how this matches the shape of that? That's what I mean by being compatible with each other. Okay? This needs to fit in there or nothing happens. If you don't have the right key, are you going to open the door?
No.
Same idea. Okay? And this, and this, guys, is what I mean by reception. So, correct. Now, reception. So, if just by looking at this picture, is the receptor protein on the membrane or in the cytoplasm? And if it's on the membrane, what does that probably tell you about the signal molecule? It's polar or too large, right? So just by knowing what type of membrane receptor you have or receptor, you can identify what type of signal molecule you're using. So it's probably not like a steroid-based hormone like estrogen, testosterone, because those guys can go directly through the cell membrane. Okay? This might be like a protein-based hormone like epinephrine.
So it's non-polar.
What?
Non-polar.
Because it's using a protein channel.
So is it polar or non-polar?
Polar.
You got it. Yes, cool.
What is the exercise?
Oh, that's just outside the cell. That could be like the blood, if you want to get technical. Like this is your blood, and this is your cell. Okay? Okay, so far are we okay?
Yes.
You understand what reception is? It's just this plus this, right? Okay. The next, huh? Correct. That's all it is. That's it. That's simple. Now the next thing we're going to talk about is all of this here. Okay? All that stuff you see. That is part of what is called your transduction pathway. So all this craziness that you see in here is called your transduction pathway. Now, what is the transduction pathway? Okay, it typically involves a series of enzymes. We call them relay proteins. Okay? So, anyone ever run a relay race? Okay, you know how you pass the baton on to the next person and the next person? Same idea. They're kind of like hitting each other like, hey, activate. Hey, activate. And correct. And then eventually you get a finish, right? So like A you need for B, A makes B activates C activates D, and then D activates E, and E is the actual response. But there's a lot that has to happen between A and E. That's a transduction pathway.
Okay.
It's everything that happens from you to get to A to E. Okay? And it's a cell, so the only thing that happens is generally enzymes are making stuff and breaking stuff down to do something else. Okay? That's why we say it's a part of relay proteins. It typically, and I'm giving you like key terms you might see, right, with transduction pathways. Excuse me. It amplifies a response. Okay? It's going to amplify. This type of pathway typically results in a really big response. That's what I mean by amplifies. When your cell goes through a lot of steps, usually it's going to give you something really, really big at the end, right? Okay? It's kind of like if you spend months and months and months planning a party. It's probably going to be a really big party, right? Versus you're just trying to do a get-together on the weekend. Okay? Same idea. Because we use these relay proteins, because it's a multi-step reaction process, it typically results in a really big response. And that's what they mean by amplify. Okay? If you see that word, that's what they mean. Okay? Next key word that you're going to see in here, and then we'll start talking about what actually is going on here. It results in what's, I'm not making this word up, a phosphorylation cascade.
Yeah, that's the math.
Phosphorylation cascade. Again, buzzwords, key terms. Now, phosphorylation, I've told you guys, you always associate with ATP. Okay? And when something has like a cascade effect, what does that mean?
It continues on.
It continues, right? So in a phosphorylation cascade, all you're doing is breaking down what? And as you break down ATP, something is happening. That's all a phosphorylation cascade is. So when they ask you, in this process, there is a phosphorylation cascade, they want you to know that you're just breaking down a lot of ATP. And if you're breaking a lot of ATP and you're releasing all this energy, it's going to give you a really big response. It's amplification. Now, another way they can say phosphorylation cascade, would be a catabolic process. We learned about catabolic reactions. That's when you break something down to release energy. Isn't that a phosphorylation cascade? Yes. You might also see the word hydrolysis. Hydrolysis is another word we use for breaking down. So in this type of pathway, when they talk about within the steps, usually it involves the hydrolysis of ATP, a phosphorylation cascade, a catabolic process. Those are all different ways they can tell you that it uses energy by breaking ATP down. All of those ways. Okay? Because again, we're talking about learning how to read the questions. Because they're not going to tell you it uses ATP by breaking it down. They're not. They're not going to do that for you guys. They're going to expect you to know that a phosphorylation cascade means the same thing. Okay? Yeah? We're on the same page? Okay. So, and then the last part, this is number 2. The last part is typically a cellular response. So that happens all the way at the end. But you understand, like, that from get to here, a lot of stuff has to happen in between, right?
Yep.
That's what I mean by a multi-step. And this to me is how or why your cells are so amazing. It can organize all of this very quickly so you can respond to external stimuli. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
What do you say was called when the ATP was breaking down?
They refer to it as catabolic. Remember, cat, you're breaking down. Anabolic, you're building. Hydrolysis of ATP. They always like to use that instead of just say breaking it down, because hydrolysis is break, those things. Okay, so.
Yusuf, I have a question.
Yeah, baby, of course.
So how does all of this have to do with signal?
Because in cell signaling, it's when your cells talk to each other, right? So I'm going to give you, and this is why the videos are important. This is what we're going to actually do Monday and Tuesday. Give you real life examples of how this works. So let's say that an adrenaline rush, we're all familiar with that, right? So in an adrenaline rush, the main hormone that is your ligand is called epinephrine. It's adrenaline. Epinephrine is released by the kidney's adrenal gland. And it's stimulated by the brain, right? So that means that my brain has to tell my kidney to release this hormone. That hormone has to go through my blood to my muscle cells and my heart cells, and epinephrine stimulates the breakdown of glycogen to glucose. It stimulates the muscle cells to contract faster. It stimulates blood flow and blood pressure. It relaxes your bronchioles so that you can take in more oxygen. But all those systems only knew to do that because the brain released a hormone that told it, do all this.
That's so smart.
That is why this is so important. Listen, guys, this is, I will tell you, probably the last hardest chapter we will do. In my opinion. Because all the other stuff, especially last year, we did the hard stuff. Okazaki, all that's done. So, exactly, we're seeing that again, Okazaki fragment. So, this I don't do because this is just way beyond the scope. But it's really important in here. Because we always talk about, well, the whole point of your body is that you maintain homeostasis, right? Well, the only main way to maintain homeostasis is that your cells can talk to each other and communicate. You are a multicellular organism. It takes so much consistent input between all your systems just to run you on a day-to-day basis, to maintain 37 degrees Celsius, to maintain glucose, calcium levels, water levels, neuron levels, hormone levels, temperature, pH. All of those things have to be coordinated. And the only way to do that is if your cells can talk to each other properly. When they cannot communicate, that is when your cells physiologically start going stressful or stressed and they no longer work. Okay? That's what shock is. Shock is when your body's overstimulated and it can't communicate properly. So the brain's like, no, stop. We're going to shut you down for a second and reboot you. And your brain will do that. What do you think when people go unconscious? Your brain is shutting your body down so it can reboot itself because it can't figure out which way to go. Autoimmune disorders are when your immune system is not communicating properly with the rest of your body. So that's why, and this is what we're looking at, and that's how this is applicable. Because I tell you, like, insulin causes your glucose levels in your blood to go down. Why? Because when insulin binds to the receptor protein, it causes the channel to open, so glucose floods in. So it's just more than, well, how does it do it? By doing all this in between.
Do animals have better cell communication than humans?
No, we're pretty up there. Especially that our prefrontal cortex is very developed. We're pretty advanced. Okay, guys, so now what are types of did that help?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are type of cellular responses? One would be cell growth. Okay, when you form a gash like Blake did in his skin. Okay, remember, your cells can do paracrine signaling. They release growth factors that will trigger the cell to start going into mitosis so you can replace the cells that you damaged.
Or I can take the emergency shower.
I don't know, but your cells are a little slow, right? You're not going very fast. You're still bleeding?
Yes.
But that's not your cells, that's because you're a clotting factor. Okay? Okay. Cell growth. It can be something as simple as production or synthesis of a molecule. The breakdown of a molecule. Okay? Storing glucose and converting it to fat. It's a cellular apoptosis, cellular suicide. That is probably one of the most advanced cell communications there is, when the cell signals itself to start digesting its internal parts. Because altruism, it's doing it for the better of the entire body, because that cell's bad, it's gone rogue, it's become cancerous. Yeah, it is.
So, like, the one that's going rogue, it's like, I'm gonna kill myself.
For the better of the community. Do you know that there are animals that actually do that? It's called altruism. Well, they will sacrifice bees, are notorious of that. Ants too. They will sacrifice themselves for the queen.
Oh yeah, like the bees and their stingers?
Yes.
Our cells are nicer than us.
Yes, they are. They are. Yes. Cole's like, whoa. Mind blown. Okay. Gene expression. That is another important thing. So let's talk about this, because one of the hormones we're going to talk about is testosterone. Okay. You know when you go through puberty, right?
No.
Your body.
Not George.
Your body goes through a lot of different changes, right? That is because from or prior, pre-puberty, you have certain genes in your DNA that are shut off. When your sex glands start releasing estrogen and testosterone, those signal molecules, one of the responses is activating suppressed genes, and you start making other things that you weren't making before, hence developmental change, growth, because you're triggering the production of proteins that you were not making before, that you had suppressed because it's all tiny. Okay? So one of the main things is gene expression. Cell communication can be used to turn genes on and off, to express and make proteins, okay, that you usually don't make. And finally, enzyme control. We use cell communication to turn enzymes on and off in the cytoplasm all the time. Yes, like allosteric, exactly. Those are ligands. They're signaling the cells and the enzymes to be turned on. Exactly. And that is all a part of this. We didn't go into, I just told you allosteric inhibition does this, but it's type of a cell communication.
When our body is dead, like, we're just like, right? Are our cells, like, have they disappeared?
No,
Or are
they
still-
start decomposing. So what happens is they start breaking down, and as they break down, you release gases and all that,
So, like,
and the tissues will decompose.
Do they
so
die?
if I were to, like, shoot a person in the head, no, I'm just
I
asking.
know.
If that person wanted like,
I've been waiting to come at me, so I'm a little worried.
I'm sorry.
This guy wasn't that bad.
If that person like was shot in the head, their cells would like decompose.
And once they're dead and they're no longer producing energy because they can't move oxygen, yes. Now, some people can get shot in the head
Or stomach.
and they still have their autonomic functions, meaning breathing and all are still intact. Yeah. So I don't want to say shooting someone in the head will result in decomposition. You have to die for your cells to decompose. But gangrene, have you ever seen someone who has gangrene? Where their tissues start to die because there's lack of flow? And then, look it up, it's really nasty.
Ew.
And they'll usually have to amputate because the tissues die, they turn black and green.
Oh, that's why
Oh, yeah,
they
it's when
caught
it's-
And then they'll amputate it. Diabetics are very prone to
Wait, why
this
does
because
that
of poor
happen?
circulation.
Oh, because there's no circulation. in the
Yes,
leg.
so if you're not getting
Oh, that's why- is that
blood,
why
you
there's,
can't
like,
get
infections?
oxygen. Can't get oxygen, can your cells do cellular respiration?
No.
And if they can't make energy, can they work anymore? It's like trying to go to the mall without money. Good luck.
So if like you get into
Doesn't
like,
work.
if you get into a car crash, right, and like there's like a clog in your like blood, and like there's no more circulation.
Yes.
If your leg can
If
become,
they
like,
don't
black.
relieve the clot, it could potentially cause
Because
tissue death.
your leg
And then
becomes
they cut it
pale
off.
and not hard purple and then
Absolutely. Not all the parts. Your brain still must be still working. Because now you wouldn't be able to breathe and stuff on your own. You're a vegetable. It depends. And it depends on what part. There are certain parts of the brain that once that part dies, it cuts off what's called autonomic functioning, meaning that you can't move your diaphragm, your lungs don't expand, your heart, all, it just, yeah.
You showed me the green algae deal.
And well, yeah. Okay, so listen, I would suggest you take anatomy next year because that seems to
No,
interest you.
I like
We
anatomy.
talk death about death and stuff. Someone's always dying. Okay? But here, let's live. Okay, Leo? So, now let's go through this. So it's really important because we only have 5 minutes and I wanted to do my activity, but I guess we won't. So let's talk about and label and then we will be enzymes on Monday. So, in this process, what we are seeing is reception. Now, this enzyme over here is called adenyl cyclase. ADENYL. Adenyl cyclase. Again, if it ends in ASC, that means it is a enzyme. Just write it. ADE. I didn't write it for you guys. ADEN. No, it's ADENYL.
Yeah.
YL. Adenyl. Adenyl. Cyclase.
Adenyl.
Yes, cyclase.
No, it's adenyl.
And this enzyme makes what is called cyclic AMP. Just write that down. Cyclic AMP. Even if you don't understand today, it's okay because we'll go more in depth on Monday because I didn't get to do my little thing because pizza's in 5 minutes. Now, cyclic AMP is what we call a secondary messenger. It'll also be abbreviated to CAMP, like camp. Okay? Another secondary messenger is calcium. We see this a lot in the nervous system. You know when they always say, don't shoot the messenger?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just bringing you the message. That's what a secondary messenger is. It's taking the message from reception to the transduction pathway.
So is it like if you got like an injury or something and you feel the pain, that's like basically what it's for?
No, this is a little bit different. Okay, I'm going to explain to you in a second.
When you get hurt, isn't that also self-communication?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You are taking information from the injured area to the brain is processing it, and the pain is on purpose. The body produces pain so that you understand that something is wrong with you. And then what's really cool is when there's too much pain in the body or the brain realizes that you're in trouble, it will produce natural nerve blockers that can block the signaling. So it basically creates a portal where the messages from the injured area don't reach the, like people, you know what I'm saying? So Like injured people who are crawling out and survive for 5 days and then they see help and then they collapse. That kind of stuff. The brain's really powerful. Okay? Now, next thing is calcium. Not only for bones, calcium is really important in the nervous system. It is really important when we talk about nerve transmission of impulses back and forth. CAMP. Now, what you'll notice is what is at the end here?
On calcium.
Oh, nervous. So at the end of CAMP, there's a what? A phosphorus. Guess where that phosphorus comes from? So when I say hydrolysis of ATP is essential for these reaction pathways, it's because I'm borrowing the phosphates to make secondary messengers, things, right? Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now what happens is you have a protein called, is it up there?
Wait, where does the calcium come from?
Huh?
Where does
Food.
the calcium
Eating
come from?
food.
Ah, okay.
Called protein kinase. KINAC. Protein kinase are enzymes that phosphorylate, meaning they take off the what? Very good. From ATP. So they are phosphorylating ATP. And then by removing that phosphate, I am able to make cyclic AMP, which begins or is going to take the message to the next enzyme. Okay? Now, so protein kinase phosphorylates ATP. ATP turns into ADP. It releases the phosphate, and then adenyl cyclase takes that phosphate and makes CAMP. Okay, so we'll do it again. Receptor binds. This causes a change.
Yeah.
That change activates adenyl cyclase. So if I don't bind, do I activate this?
No.
Once this is activated, protein kinases start breaking down AT, freeing up A, which then this enzyme adds to CAM, and then makes CAM, which is going to go into the actual reaction.
So, Ms. Safon, what's
This is like acetyl CoA.
Oh, yeah.
Ms. Safon, what's these two things?
Oh, so this is the inactive. So you'll notice cyclic AMP is a little ball, right?
Yeah.
This is the inactive. This is what I'm actually trying to get through. This is my actual transduction pathway. All of this was like a pep rally. It's a precursor. But I need to do this before I can do this, because cyclic AMP binds to the inactive, the active side on the enzyme. It changes its shape, and it goes from inactive to
Active.
and which gives me a response.
So they're both enzymes.
Yes.
Wait, what's in the
Remember protein, relay proteins
Making it inactive.
turn into active.
what's in the receptor over there?
Oh, that's cyclic AMP.
That's CAMP,
Yeah.
right?
So cyclic AMP then acts as a secondary messenger